Just thought I'd make a little show about cassette tapes, guys. Let me turn these fans down. So I've got 3 fans running. Trying to keep cool. We've got this massive one going as well. Look. Saying that, it's still pretty damn on. Oh, another one up here.
Latest to announce his candidacy came this afternoon.
Anyway, guys, I thought I'd make a little recording about cassette tapes. I've still got a little collection, as some of you might have. And believe it or not, cassette tapes, they're actually making a comeback, guys. So much so that the companies that used to make the cassette tape, decks and tapes are all coming back and launching again. In fact, in America, the growth is 50%, it's doubled.
His support behind Rishi Sunak and joins us now this afternoon. Mr. Spencer, hello to you.
It's a bit like
why Rishi Sunak?
The vinyl revival, in the sense that it's an old format from the 80s coming back, but obviously at one point in history, people were running around with Walkmans on, which I've got one up here that I'll show you in a minute. I've got a selection of different tape players that I own. I've even got a reel-to-reel tape player, which was my mum's, which dates back to the 60s. I've got one of the first ever separate cassette decks to ever come out. Dolby noise reduction as well. But I'll get on to show you them in a minute. But basically, you got companies like Marantz, which is a good company. TIAC make them as well. And so do NASCAM, different other companies. And what they're all doing now is, at the end of the 80s, 90s, when all the tapes really faded away into the 2000s and whatever, the main manufacturers of the decent mechanisms, the actual head that reads the tape, they stopped making them. So all you really had was I think it's called a Tenachi mechanism, which was out of China, which was a really crap mechanism. But they were putting them in everything, you know what I mean, everything that was made after a certain date had one of them in. But where the cassette tape is now coming back, obviously these companies have seen that, and basically they're making their own mechanisms again. So all the players and companies that had using them Chinese mechanisms, which just, they play your tapes, guys, and they record and stuff, but you wouldn't go, not as good as the old ones you used to get if you were around in the 80s, or the 90s. What you find it now is where these companies are now making the good mechanisms, they're all coming back. A lot of these the new tape decks coming out, which I haven't got one. I've got literally old school stuff. But we're looking at the new tape decks, and they've got USB ports and all sorts of stuff. You can sort of plug your computer in, and you can rip the music and digitise it from your tapes to MP3 through your smartphone or whatever device you. We've got so many devices now that you could be.
Well, I'm a small cop.
You could be using a computer, you could be using a laptop, you could be using any device.
There's a lot of momentum behind him, I think.
So I'm just having a swig of my tea.
He's the best one to lead us.
What about the scrutiny that there will now be on on his private life. He has already sustained a lot, and there will be more, I'm sure, that is focused on,
Put my lighter.
the green cards and
Basically, all the tape companies, guys, they stopped making tapes, really. TDKs and all them kind of things, the C90s, C60s and the D whatevers. I don't know, there are even ones that, I've got one somewhere, which is 120.
Because there was nothing hidden about
They stopped making them in 2003.
the video with him, and we all recognised
Obviously, you can still buy new old stock.
the right man to lead us. But those skeletons,
But they're now making them again, these tape companies.
so ribbon
It's all your TDKs and all them sort of people
times and
who are in the UK that know that make. They'll all be coming back.
the harassment issue, the sexual harassment.
But the lifespan, really,
Really the man who can
of a cassette tape,
at such a
what they say in the industry, is 30 years.
reach out
So obviously, if you bought tapes in the 80s and you still got them, they're going to be like 40 years old touching.
conservatives.
But
That skill set and that ability to connect right across
to be honest, I've not really,
constituencies. And I
there's me tapes lit on the wall,
our best chance at winning the next general election. And
but I've not really looked after them
coming forward, he sets out that vision. I think,
the same way as I look after my vinyl, but I've always kept them. I know a lot of people that have thrown them out, or if you've got cassette tapes up in the loft or under your bed or wherever, they're actually going to be worth a few quid. Because as tapes are coming back, which they are, you're going to find that them old original tapes, it's going to be the same as the vinyl. The price, if you've got an original copy that plays half decent, that's going to be worth more than, well, quite a bit of money, and the price will just go up. Obviously, if people are using them. But I've got tapes up here, guys, that I recorded, I don't know, anywhere from 1987 right through. I recorded a lot of pirate radio stations onto tapes, and they still work fine. Obviously, if you're using chrome tapes, metal tapes, it might last a bit longer. I don't know how they deteriorate. I'm not an expert in the actual tape.
Consider it a local, my local team, constituents.
But I'm quite glad that I kept my little collection now.
And being perfectly honest when I say,
How long have I been on here?
would be if I decided to throw my hand in the ring.
Going to be putting this one out on YouTube as well.
I'm keeping my powder dry. I'll be talking to a few people over the weekend and we'll see what happens.
So you will consider it?
Yes, I absolutely. My hat in the ring with the next.
What you got here, guys? I'll show you my first one,
A lot like that over the coming days. MPs lead
which is basically, well, I might need to put the light on.
process, so in the process needs to be completed by
That's the one I got the other day, guys, which is basically a pioneer.
of the 1922 executive gave us some insights.
The rules and timetable, etc., have not yet
That's what we're using there, CT
will be agreed on,
X53 OWR.
and then announcements will be made. Now, you don't have to be a genius to work out that between
Obviously these,
and
you got a proper cassette in there, mate, pioneer.
Parliament City, can't do it outside that time because of logistics. And we don't know how
Got some nice functions down here.
we will whittle down the list from
Oh, you can see the dust, and
the latest
I should really get in there with the old
people expressing interest down to two
cleaner.
within that time frame, which might mean
Go right to town on it.
some successive days. It might mean holding 2 ballots a day if
But
necessary.
there, you've got your tape functions.
The numbers down.
Down process, obviously at the moment we know that we've seen the past elections
It's got high-speed dubbing,
that stand and then
and also on the dubbing, high speed,
votes then get knocked off the bottom of the
you
list.
can actually increase the speed of the dubbing.
Way of intervening at the start, so that any one of us has to
Which is basically them two.
nomination to evenly stand at the start.
Yes, you're sort of getting into the stage of what the process will be. There are different opinions on this, and that's why I'm just slightly hesitant.
Ignore the radio in the background there, guys.
Last time round, we had the requirement for a nominated candidate to get proposer and seconder, which will be
At the top here,
and then 8
what I've done for demonstration purposes,
not to be in the public domain.
I've got my techniques,
The restriction being, of course, you can only sign one
double tape deck.
which did actually end up from one candidate last time round, but that's another matter.
Got
Obviously,
the light on again, which is this one.
and so consideration is being given to how many people will be required to
And again,
nominate a candidate.
You've got a really nice posh
There's also
proper head in the techniques deck.
if certain candidates have got far more votes in a ballot than others,
For all you geeks out there,
that even though people were
this
qualified,
is an RSX 520.
chose to drop out because they could see that they weren't going to get to the last two, and then they threw their weight behind other candidates.
Obviously this is
What may happen is we
on
may
digital.
lose,
Got a digital display, output, recording levels.
a percentage of the vote that someone would have to get through to the next.
Obviously this one down here,
Got a number of options that you're weighing up. Just
that's all analog.
whittled it down to 2 candidates by
You've got analog lights.
May 21st, which is the end of the parliamentary term. Then it goes out to the country. How quickly can the membership decide between those 2 candidates?
Well, the board of the party have got to meet to decide how they're going to do the postal ballot
I've got
of members.
what I showed you there too.
There will be pressure from the membership to have
Got another 5 tape players to show you. I've got another mouthful of my tea.
members can go and see the candidates and question them, hold them to account,
I think the tape prices as well are going to be cheaper than what they used to be.
conduct further some. There's the consideration of people being away, having pre-booked holidays and so on, and making sure that everyone has the right to vote, who needs to have the right to vote as a party member, and can register that vote. So the board is going to have to consider, as well, and the board will have to consider those aspects before they agree the final timetable. But I think it's fair to say that the aim will be, and I think there's a lot of sympathy in the party board on this, the aim will be to have the new leader of the party by the 5th of September, which would of course be when Parliament returns.
What up here, guys, is
Is Bob Blackburn talking about when they
another tape player, which is one of the first ever separate to ever come out.
September?
It's worth quite a bit of money. It's a proper vintage bit of kit. And this basically was one of the first tape players ever.
Well, but waiting is over for Sir Keir Starmer.
So take a look at the Pioneer on the bottom, and then you go up to the Techniques ones,
To answer
and then you go up to
to an event a
the
Labour
Decker ones.
in April 2021.
What you're looking at there.
As Beergate. The first says that there was an exemption to the lockdown.
That's what you're looking at.
Reasonably necessary work. Sir Keir had pledged to quit.
Single player.
If he'd been fined, adding integrity matters. But today there was evident relief on the Labour leader's face that his political
Well, that all works. You've got the
paid off.
levels up there.
No rules were broken when I was in Durham. The police
You've got your output, which is basically your volume.
and found that there is no case to answer.
And then you've got the recording level. Obviously turn it right up.
Will be leading the Labour Party
You've got a nice little
general election, and part of his team, Jonathan Reynolds, is the Shadow Secretary of State for Business and Industrial Strategy.
in fact, I was looking at this Pioneer amp today.
Reynolds
One of the world's most powerfulest amps.
is this.
It's got loads of them little meters on. I quite like them.
Just as Boris Johnson
I'm
prepares.
I'm a fan of the old school and the analog and all the flashing digital. Do you know what I mean? All the flashing lights. Obviously, it's all digital now. But personally, I like the old school.
In our political system, I think
Just the analog meters, man. I used to have an old Rotel system back in the 80s, and it had massive
no one can
meters, and also your old tuners used to have their big old needles.
living the state of the economy as a whole.
But saying that, I will say that the new Techniques one that's out, it's digital and analog, believe it or not. Techniques have obviously
But now we can get to a
got their thinking caps on, and they've gone and made an amplifier which is kind of digital one side, but it's got this oversized, this massive oversized needle that goes right across the front.
Up until now,
it just looks proper cool. That's, I forget the model number, but it's a Techniques one, and it's £2,000, which is a lot of money. Not being funny, if you went and gave me £2,000, I could buy a lot of hi-fi equipment for that.
It will be the fourth Conservative Prime Minister in a row.
Obviously, you got power there. You got some severe power.
This Conservative Prime Minister has failed, and the last one failed, and the last one failed before that.
But any people out there, £2,000.
He's been up against Boris Johnson from the start of his leadership. Now he's going to have to. Will he have to duck and dive a bit more? Will he have to rethink his strategy if he's going to use?
I accept your point that the peer leads against Boris Johnson, who would be the.
So I'm just looking for my lighter, guys.
In the polls, they were also leads on who would be best on.
Anyway, that's the top one.
On immigration.
That's the old one. That's very vintage.
Simply say, this Conservative Party have been in power for
Decca
12 years.
was a recording label
12 years of declining public services. 12 years
that my mum actually recorded on.
takes over, cannot run away.
Took it up here onto my mum's records.
And I accept that in the past they've gone for the change that's come from a change.
You'll see that one now,
They haven't delivered.
which is the Goons.
Fresh start.
You also see
Only come from the change.
some Vernon's Girls records there, which are on Decca. And there's another Decca one up there.
I mean, what would you do? Is it set down a
And
contract?
believe it or not, my granddad used to work for a record pressing factory in Golden Green called the Crystallate. A little bit of history for you. And they actually used to produce records that my mum made, which is quite ironic. My granddad worked there, my auntie used to sit in a booth with headphones on, listening to all the records coming out. Because obviously that was how they did the quality control years ago. We used to have girls sitting in booths with headphones on. What a job that must be.
With this for months and months to come, it will be impossible.
Anyway.